It is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. Today is actually my born day. We don't call it birthday anymore when we find out about Admiralty law and word magic and all that stuff. So, born day it is. Many years ago on this date, I came into physical manifestation into this life. And a lot of people will say to me, Mark, what are you doing, man? Making a video about all this stuff on your birthday? You should be celebrating. Well, I've done that. I had a great party on Saturday night. Many thanks to all the people that came out. It was a blast. Some great tunes got played. A lot of DJ friends were there. Played a few tunes myself. So I've done my celebrating. And I'm actually feeling quite energized today and quite healthy and in fairly good spirits. So I thought, what better day than today to make this video? I think it's actually a good time to reflect on these subjects. Just to address a couple of things, I realised that the quality of the picture on my videos of late has not been the most amazing. This is down to the fact that my laptop is simply worn out. It's been absolutely hammered. I've been kicking its ass every day for several years, and it's time for a replacement. So I've got a new MacBook. It's currently being configured, so that should be ready to use soon, and the picture quality on my videos should improve immensely. Other thing to mention is this t-shirt, which you may have noticed. It says "Tis was." "Tis was," for those who don't know, was an amazingly innovative kids TV show. Well, kids show, which used to air on ATV, which was one of the ITV franchises for the Midlands in England, from 1974 to 1982. And I used to be so into this show as a kid. I mentioned this on a podcast that I did on Richard Vobes' show last year, and somebody who had heard it got me this t-shirt, which I'm very grateful for. And I hadn't necessarily intended to wear it today. It was just the first t-shirt that kind of leapt out at me when I was planning to do this video. So I thought I'd mention it. So "Tis was" masqueraded as a kids show, but actually it was a show aimed at adults. Well, it was towards the end of its run anyway. Hosted by Chris Tarrant, who was the executive producer on it latterly. And it actually broke many familiar names, like Lenny Henry got his first TV break through "Tis was." Look at what he's doing now. You know, he's a sir and pushing various psyops and scams. But back in the day, he was innocent enough. Jim Davidson used to be on it, Frank Carson, John Gorman, who was a part of the scaffold in the 60s with Mike McCartney. And most importantly, for many of the dads that used to watch this show, Sally James. And she was pretty hot, and she used to appear on this show in stockings and suspenders. It's obviously aimed at the dads of the kids that were supposed to be watching. And many dads used to make excuses for not going and doing the shopping on a Saturday morning and watching "Tis was" instead. They used to throw custard pies around and buckets of water, stuff you'd never get away with now on the grounds of health and safety. But back then, the 70s, the early 80s, it was just fantastic. It was chaotic, it was anarchic, and that's why I loved it. There's been no TV show like it since, and I've got many happy memories of growing up watching "Tis was." Anyone that wasn't in the Midlands region of ITV may have got it in their region towards the end of its run. The different franchises around the country variously took it on. But anyone that was outside of the UK will have no idea what "Tis was" was. There's plenty of videos of it on YouTube if you want to catch up with what you missed. And I'll end it there. People might say, what's a plug for "Tis was" doing in a video about spirituality and God? But it's just a bit of banter to get the video going. And also, it just refers back to happier times, when I was a kid and I didn't know all the stuff that I know now, and happy memories, which are sometimes good. Not always, but, sometimes good to look back. So, leave that one there. I want to get into the subject matter of this video by talking about some Synchromystic experiences that I've had recently and that a friend has had. So I've addressed some of these previously, but I've had a couple of very topical examples in the last week. So my daughter and myself went into a Wetherspoons pub, and we were sat by the kitchen, and the chef had on his playlist, Spotify, presumably, and about 8 of the songs that he played in that time were on my daughter's playlist. So these are songs that she would play herself. What are the chances of these same songs being on his playlist as on my daughter's playlist. And people will say, oh, the device was somehow hacked, or the AI algorithm was reading what was on her device and transferring it to his, or something of that nature. How to explain then two other occasions where I went into venues without my daughter this time, so I didn't have her device anywhere in the vicinity. It was just my laptop, and I don't have a Spotify playlist myself, so it's not like it could have been reading what was on my list. And the same songs appeared again in these venues. It starts to feel like something is communicating, or it starts to feel like the coding of this matrix reality in which we live is arranging itself in certain patterns. That's the way I've long seen it. That's the way I've long been able to explain to myself how these synchromystic phenomena keep happening. It reminds me of an occasion in 2010 where I just started to wake up to truth, and I'd started to look at conspiracy issues and things of that nature. And I was in a bar in Buffalo, New York State, and I got chatting to this guy, just this random guy that was sat on a bar stool next to me. I did that a bit in the early years. I used to evangelize about stuff that I'd come to know. I realize now that it's totally the wrong approach, and you're not going to win people over to your way of thinking by hammering this stuff into their heads. I also remember the same year, 2010, sitting on a flight to Zagreb, Croatia, and chatting to this girl next to me. For the whole 2-hour flight, I was just talking about the books of David Icke and things that I'd come to discover. And I thought I'd bored the poor girl to tears. She was listening intently and nodding her head and stuff like that. And I got off the flight thinking, oh dear, I've, totally ruined that girl's day. And I was doing a DJ gig in Zagreb that night, and she turned up. In she walked. I told her what venue I was going to be at, so I guess I hadn't bored her that much, otherwise she wouldn't have turned up to the gig. But anyway, just to emphasize that trying to bash people over the head with knowledge and information is not necessarily the best way to get through to them. You've got to let them discover this stuff in their own time, on their own terms. You just need to sow the seed that is going to set them off on that path of discovery. So back to this bar in Buffalo, and I'm doing the same thing to this guy. I'm just talking to him about all this stuff that I've discovered. And I got talking about John Lennon, and specifically his song Watching the Wheels, which I feel is an amazing lyrical masterpiece. He's talking about these life experiences and trying to make sense of them. So I was talking about some of the lyrics in the song to this guy. And then on the radio at that very moment comes, I think you can probably guess, Agadoo by Black Lace. No, I'm joking. Watching the Wheels by John Lennon. What are the chances of that happening? I was relating this story to a very good friend of mine in Italy/Austria. She knows who she is. And she was telling me that she was singing along to John Lennon's Woman, not Yoko. Is that a woman? The song Woman. And she turned on the radio, and John Lennon's Woman was playing. But not only that, it was at the point in the song that she had reached herself where she was singing along. So, second verse, whatever it was, turns on the radio. The very line that she's got in her head and that she's singing comes on. Who is going to tell me that that is coincidence or just one of those things? We reach a point where we have to accept that something else is going on here. And I truly feel that synchromystic phenomena can be explained through this reality being akin to a kind of virtual reality simulation running on computer type code. It's like a software program or a video game that we find ourselves in. Don't remember how we got here. We'll get to that. But that really would explain why these things happen, because everything has its own code. We could think of it as energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything has its own unique energetic vibration. But I think if we go a level beyond that, to the very core of this reality, we find computer type coding. And different iterations of that code find themselves. So if somebody's singing along to a John Lennon song, the John Lennon song has been coded in a certain way and carries its own frequency, if you like. And so one expression of that frequency or that code finds another expression of it and latches onto it, joins onto it. That explains why these things happen so much in our lives. That explains why we see certain numbers all the time. I've mentioned many times before, I see expressions of my born date everywhere I look, and it's happening every day now, literally every day. I can look at the clock, I just think to do it at that moment, and there it is, an expression of my born date. So my view of what this reality really is, and it's a view shared evidently by many others, can explain these situations, I feel. So let's get on to the main talking point of this video, at last you say, and this is the so-called New Age spirituality belief system. This is pretty much the de facto belief system for the truth alternative slash conspiracy scene. It's one that many people, when they first wake up to truth, gravitate towards. It's been placed there, in my view, to entrap these people. And I speak from experience because I myself allowed myself to be swayed towards this way of thinking, this way of perceiving this world and my place in it and what it's all about when I first woke up to truth. Many years ago now, reading those David Icke books and watching the Zeitgeist movie and questioning 9/11, when you come to question all of these things which play out in this reality, it's inevitable that eventually you're going to reach the point where you question reality itself. You go beyond all the conspiracy stuff and the fine detail of all these secret societies and what goes on at the Bilderberg group and what goes into chemtrails and all this stuff. And you just arrive at the point where you ask, well, where are we? What is this? What is God? How did we get here? What happens when we leave? What is this place? And so this New Age spirituality system is there to beckon you in and say, here I am, come to me. I've got all the answers. Because if you're questioning organized society and the way everything is set up, you're going to realize pretty quickly that religions, organized orthodox religions, are there as systems of mind control and entrapment. Doesn't matter what religion it is. I'm not going to pick on any specific one. But they're all there with their respective holy books and their respective dogma and codes and rules and regulations. And each one of them tells you how to live. It tells you how to think. It tells you who or what God is. And each one insists they've got the truth. This is the ridiculous thing about religions. One will say, my God is the true God and my holy book is the true one. And you have to follow this and you have to do this on a Friday and this on a Sunday and wear this garment and eat this food. Because if you don't, there'll be judgment awaiting for you. You'll go to hell. Next religion says, no, 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 you've got that all wrong. Don't wear that garment and eat that food and read that book. Read my book and do what my religion says. My rules are the correct ones. So how the hell, forgive the pun, are you expected to find the right one? Because really it just comes down to the part of the world that you were born into and the family you were born into. So if you were born in Saudi Arabia, you're going to gravitate towards a particular religion because that religion has been set up as the de facto one for that part of the world. If you're born in the southern states of America, you're going to gravitate towards an entirely different religion. And it's all down to accidents of birth, where you just happen to have been born, who your parents just happen to have been. So how can any of them claim to be the truth and the only way to God and the only way to salvation when there's a whole bunch of others waiting, making the same claim? So new truthers, baby truthers, if you like, realize this pretty quickly. They join the dots. And so they're looking for wisdom and knowledge from elsewhere as to who or what God truly is. That's where this New Age system is waiting for you. So I fell down this particular rabbit hole myself and went off down this garden path. And what it teaches is that we're in one of many lives. You know, we've had many lives before, we'll probably have many more to come, and we accumulate wisdom and knowledge each go round. And the purpose of these lives is so that our souls can grow, evolve, learn lessons, gain experiences. And then when we leave our bodies, we take all that wisdom and knowledge that we've accumulated back to source, and it gets consolidated and aggregated with all the other knowledge that all the other souls that have ever lived have gained. And it just goes into one big sort of melting pot of experiences, I guess. And we're told that this is God. We are expressions of the Godhead, the divine, the original true source. And we are experiencing ourselves. So this God force wishes to gain every experience there is to be had and to find out what it's like. There's a flaw in that way of thinking straight away. If we truly are God, why would we, as expressions of divine consciousness, all seeing, all knowing, need to descend into physical matter, the flesh of the body, to experience all these things, when we could just imagine them into our consciousness, right? I mean, if we're emanations of the creative force behind everything, we're clearly capable of anything. So if we wanted to know what it feels like to be an abused child who comes out of satanic ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control, we don't need to descend into physical matter, be born, and to actually experience that in physicality to know what it's like. It's a bit redundant. We can just imagine what it's like, use our consciousness to experience what it's like. So the idea that we come in to gain these experiences and the only way they can be gained is through becoming flesh and becoming human is flawed right from the get-go. I couldn't see that when I first got into all this, and I know many, many other people, many of my friends went down a similar path. And it's not until you start questioning everything, including what your spiritual belief system may have been up to that point, that you start to see the cracks in it. What the New Age way of thinking comes down to, this system of spiritual belief that I'm talking about, at the end of the day, is gaslighting. We are being gaslit. And I'm starting to see some parallels between that way of seeing the world and our place in it and other things that we've seen. So let's think back to 2020, must we? Yeah, for the purposes of this, just transport yourself back to your experiences during the COVID lockdowns. What were we being told the whole time through all the propaganda and the brainwashing? That basically humans were to blame. We get this ridiculous cover story of some guy in a wet market in China eating a bat and then somehow spreading it to other people who got on planes and spread the whole thing around the world. Of course, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. But again, there, even in that absurd cover story, we're getting the idea that a human caused all this. A human started it all off. And then we were getting gaslit the fuck out of by being told that we were spreading it. Phrases like super spreaders, granny killer. And they were using this to reinforce the face nappy wearing and the staying at home and the shutting down of your business, not traveling. Because we were being told if you go out and about, if you go into restaurants and pubs and shops, you're going to be spreading this terrible disease and you're going to be killing other people. What a guilt trip. What a fucking liberty to be trying to pin a psyop that's been concocted by social engineers and behavioral scientists, probably working out of Tavistock, that we are to blame for this thing. It's spreading all around the world because of us and the way we're conducting ourselves. And if you try and run your business, if you try and travel to see your sick mother, you're going to be killing other people. Gaslighting. What about the climate change scam, which we're all embroiled in now? Where's the common denominator there? This one teaches that people are the problem. Us, driving our cars, getting on planes to go on holiday, traveling to and from your place of work, we're to blame for the changes in the weather and the environment, all these natural, well, not natural, disasters that are occurring, all these weather oddities, all these strange things going on around the world. It's us, don't you know? We're to blame because we want to visit friends and we want to go away with our families and we want to conduct our business and make a living. We're to blame. We're causing all these changes and it's affecting everything. And now they've got to dim out the sun to correct our mistakes. They've got to spray poisonous shite in the sky to prevent any further damage because we've caused so much already through simply living. What about population reduction and eugenics? You know, the sick psychopaths who preside over all expressions of organized society have made no secret of their desire to reduce the population, the human population, by huge numbers. They want to get it down to about 500 million. That's a lot of people that have got to be killed off. And this is an insight into their mindset because they truly see us useless eaters, as they refer to us, as a problem. Because as they see it, there's too many of us. What that translates into is there's too many of us to control, and too many of us are now getting wise to all the lies and deceptions that we've been told all our lives. We're becoming a threat. So they want to get rid of huge swathes of us. And there's the common denominator again. Us, people, humans. We're to blame for everything. We're the problem, according to the mindset that prevails. And so that needs to be addressed. And so we can circle this back around to this new age system of belief. And there we find it again, the gaslighting. Because this way of seeing things teaches that if you have problems, hardships, suffering, pain, obstacles, challenges in your life, you are to blame for them. It's because of negative karma that you've accumulated in previous lives, they will say. And now you have to work off that karma and pay back that debt. And the suffering and the hardships and the problems that you encounter are part of that. Not only that, as a way of explaining why these things happen, of course, it's nothing to do with the way organized society has been set up by Satanists and pedophiles and psychopaths. Nothing to do with that at all. It's nothing to do with the way that living in organized society has been deliberately, systematically made difficult through all these incursions into our lives and our freedom and our liberties. It's nothing to do with that. It's all because of us. We're to blame. Again. So a child born into satanic ritual abuse, into a family where that goes on, who has undergone horrific trauma and unimaginable horror from early childhood, is to blame for what they're going through. It's their fault. That's what this system teaches. Anything you undergo, you need it. We're told you've chosen it. On a soul level, you chose to be who you are, to be born to the parents that you were, to be born into the part of the world that you were, and to undergo everything that happens to you in your life, including the worst horrors imaginable to the human mind. If that happens, it's there for your benefit. It's there for your growth. You're the one who's going to emerge better from it, it teaches. So, needless to say, that way of seeing things no longer flies for me because I can see all the flaws in it. Because my critical thinking has reached a stage where I'm questioning absolutely everything, all the way down to what this realm actually is and what created it. I mean, we're 17 videos into the series, so a lot of questions have been asked. And you reach this point. You go beyond all the other surface detail, and even in questioning spirituality and theology, you reach a point where you have to question whether what you've been fed there is bullshit. And so for many years, I adhered to this idea that our souls are here to grow and evolve, and everything that happens to us is part of a plan that we ourselves made in a higher state of consciousness. But no longer, no more, because I've come across alternative ways of interpreting what goes on in this realm and what it actually is. We've been exploring these throughout this video series. And I think that New Age spirituality system is there to lead many truthers away from asking these harsh questions. It's a trap. And those who devised it put it there as an alternative to organized religions to try and ensnare those who the organized religions couldn't get, and just to send them off down a different cul-de-sac, dressed up as something else, but ultimately leading to the same dead end. It's the de facto spiritual belief system for truthers. It's been set up that way. And from what I've seen, from how I myself was deceived and how many others, many of my friends have been deceived, I would say they've done a pretty good job of it. But that's how I see it now. And these are the questions I'm asking. And clearly many other people are as well. The support I'm getting now for these videos is off the chain. I mean, I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of comments left below the video platforms. BitChute is out the window now in the UK, but I've still got YouTube, my God Talks channel there, and Odyssey and Rumble. And the comments I'm getting below these videos are very supportive and very encouraging. And in many cases, people are giving me a lot of food for thought. They're saying, have you considered this way of viewing things? Or how about this work that I've come across? So at this point, I want to get into the feedback section because this is a very important part of these videos. It's what you lot think, the viewers to my videos, which is the most important. I mean, I can set the wheels rolling with my monologues, but I'm very interested in what it generates in terms of response. And I've gone beyond all the insults now. You know, I've stopped getting all the hate mail. How dare you question God, and how dare you besmirch the name of whichever entity, you know. And now I'm getting lots of very mature, sensible feedback. So I want to get into some of this because a couple of them sort of reinforce the message of this video. So we'll start with this one. Somebody wrote in to say, my feelings about the New Age community is that it's the favorite place for the ego to hide. I've run across any number of New Agers in my time, and it's pretty crazy. One of my favorites was when I made a negative comment about George Bush Jr. and was blasted for being judgmental. I doubt if these people ever look in the mirror. Let me just jump in there with my thoughts on that. This is another aspect of this New Age spirituality system that I'm talking about. It gives a pass to evildoers. So it actually teaches that psychopaths like Bush or Clinton or Bill Gates or Klaus Schwab or, you know, take your pick, Tony Blair, Keir Starmer, are there to facilitate our spiritual journey. And that actually, through all the great evil and the great harm that they put into the world, they're doing us a favor because the evil is facilitating our soul's journey. And it gives us the opportunity to combat that evil and step into our power and all this. It actually teaches that we shouldn't judge these people. We shouldn't hate them. We shouldn't seek to bring them to justice for their crimes against humanity. We should view it as them doing us a favor. On a soul level, these wonderful people, you know, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, all of them, chose to come into the lives that they did to do humanity a favor, to allow us to evolve, because without the evil, we wouldn't have lessons to learn and we couldn't discover ourselves. That's actually what it teaches. So they're saying, never mind that they commit mass murder and the worst crimes against humanity that you can ever think of, genocide, everything else. Don't judge them. Love them. Embrace them. Thank them for the lessons that they allowed you to step into. Nah, Not having that. I personally don't give a free pass to evil. Neither should anyone else. So back to this correspondence. Personally, I hold to the maxim that if you don't call people on their bad behavior, you allow evil to run amok. Exactly. Which, of course, is the basic raison d'etre behind the movement, ensuring that evil continues to run amok. Yes, absolutely. It's helping to perpetuate the evil in the world by trying to get good people who have a conscience and who are opposed inherently to evil to look the other way, turn the other cheek, and just say, there's a place for evil in the world because ultimately it helps us. So let's just let them do it. Humanity is so ignorant, confused, and divided that, short of a massive spiritual awakening, I see no way out of this mess. My goal is to escape the matrix when my body expires and never, ever return. Yep. Could have written that one myself. I didn't. Somebody else did, but I concur. Okay, next piece of correspondence. The ones behind this have absolutely no conscience. That's the difference, isn't it, between them and us? We have consciences. I did a video a while back titled Conscience as a Curse. Are our consciences there to torture us because we know right from wrong? We feel opposed to the way this realm has been set up and what goes on within it. But were these consciences placed within us, within our consciousness, to bring turmoil and anguish? Because evil always flourishes, and ultimately it always will in this realm, because that's the way it's been constructed, that's the way the code has been written, and our consciences are there to make us feel hopeless at times, as if we can do nothing. Happy video this, isn't it? We'll end on a positive note, don't worry. So, yes, this letter. The ones behind it have absolutely no conscience, so they knowingly do wrong without it disrupting their sleep, as it would do for us. Mark suggested that conscience may be a curse. I do not believe so. I actually believe that if you know right from wrong, then you are superior on a spirit soul level to anyone who doesn't, even if it's the creator of this world we're talking about. Anyway, the way I see it, what they're doing is dooming themselves for eternity by continuously causing harm to others, and they will, in the end, or their spirit soul will, regret all of their actions and absolutely feel horrible about what they've done. They are rookie souls who have absolutely no clue about basic kindergarten level stuff that we were born knowing. They have absolutely nothing and they will never amount to anything. Sounds like a bit of a rant this, doesn't it? But rants are good sometimes. I definitely get the sense that they like it when people protest against their crimes. They know that they get their way in this world, so nothing can stop them. But it's beyond this world where it's impossible to hide their true essence, which is that of a parasitic, slimy, hellish-looking bug that you couldn't possibly view as equal, let alone superior to you. I just say, let the kids play. But I do have a lot of respect for anyone trying to stop them. I just feel as though this is their puny sandbox called Earth, where they get to control things, have statues built after them, and feel special, because deep down they know they are nothing. Okay, maybe. And the final one here, so I'll just read out this third one, and then we're done. This is quite a brief one. I made the comment in one of the previous videos that atheism as a mindset clearly makes no sense. We're here, we exist, so some generative force created us. I still stand by that. This person says, I totally see the logic here, Mark, but I suspect it's the same logic that gives us the chicken and the egg. There is an upper bound on human thought processes, such as our logic. In other words, we'll never explain that higher plane in a way that suits our own logical comfort. I do definitely entertain simulation and circular remisery theory, but can we conceive of a diabolism that explains Keir Starmer? Good question. Interesting effect. These shadows here. Bit of a cosmic background, which sort of suits the theme of the video, I guess. So I'm pretty much done here. I just wanted to address New Age spirituality and talk about how I myself was entrapped in that way of thinking for many years. Many others clearly have been as well. But when we actually examine it and we actually look at what we're being told, we come to realize that it's just another spiritual psyop. And it's gaslighting, making us the problem. We're told this, aren't we? You need to meditate. You need to do the self-work. You need to go within. You need to do that. It's all stuff that we need to do because we've screwed up and got it so wrong, because we're so flawed. But we don't actually know how we got here. Where's the sense in that? If these lives are for our growth and evolution, why do we get our minds wiped each time before we come in? What kind of sense does that make? Imagine you were learning chess. You have your first lesson, you get familiar with all the pieces and where they can move, and you go away and think, yep, I've learnt something there. You come back for your second lesson, and as you walk through the door, your mind suddenly gets wiped, and you sit down at the table, and you can't remember a damn thing. You don't know what this piece is, where it can move, purpose of the game, and you have to be taught all over again. Next week, you come back for your third lesson, everything gets wiped, have to do it all over again. It makes no sense. So clearly, there's no value in this idea of consecutive lives, and you grow and evolve and learn a little bit more each time you come back. It's gaslighting. And all this talk of you need to do this work and that work and overcome this problem, the burden is always being placed on us. And we're always being told that we are the problem, we've screwed up, we need to improve, we need to do this and, evolve in this way. What if we don't? What if we're here against our will? What if we didn't consent to any of this? And what if we're being gaslit by being told that we're the problem the whole time? We were the problem in COVID, we're the problem in climate change, and we're the problem when it comes to spirituality and our very souls and our very existence here. I'm not having it anymore. I'm not being gaslit. I'm not being made a victim. I'm not being made to feel as if everything that goes wrong in my world is my fault. Some of it is, sure, we make mistakes, but a lot of it is beyond our control. We found ourselves in a realm with no guidebook, no manual, and we have no idea what we're doing here. We've just been left to make the best of it by an absentee God. Where is God? If God is this loving, benevolent being that wants the best for us and cares for us, where is he or it? There's absolutely no sign of him or it. Not in my personal experience, anyway. People will tell me of experiences they've had. Maybe they've had out-of-body experiences or done psychedelics or whatever. For me personally, I've never had those kinds of experiences, and when I actually apply the critical thought, and when I'm actually prepared to go where the questions take me, there is no visible proof of any kind of loving, benevolent God. And I know many other people feel that way because they tell me so. So stop the gaslighting and stop being misled by systems of belief, of interpreting this reality, which are not there for our benefit. They are there to prevent us from asking the very questions we do on these videos. And that's why they will continue. Come back soon for God 18. Everything else, all my other activities reside at djmarkdevlin.com. That's the one-stop shop where you can get links to all my podcasts, all my videos, the music shows that I do, and everything else. And of course, my books. One day I am going to write a book about all the stuff that we've explored in these God videos. Probably not the next book, but the one after that. So we're probably looking at 2 or 3 years' time. And by that point, just imagine what wisdom all of us will have accumulated collectively, which would go way beyond anything that anyone was asking just a few years ago in the so-called truth movement. We've come a long way, actually, and we've broken down many barriers which have been constructed to prevent us from getting this far. So there's the optimism, I guess. If we were looking for a positive note on which to end, yeah, we've come a long way and we know stuff now that we didn't know a few years ago. So many of us do. And we're asking questions which we would never have thought to have asked a few years ago. And questions inevitably lead to answers. And problems can only be solved when there are solutions. Questions lead to solutions. You've got to question it in the first place to get to any solution. You've got to realize that something is wrong before you can seek to solve it. And that's what we're doing here. Catch you soon for the next one. I'm off to enjoy the rest of my born day. Cheers.